All right, here we go. Let's get started. And guess what? Just like last week, this week, that old ticker tape sound effect's going to get used because I got breaking news again. You ready for this, Kateline?
Yep.
World-renowned Shrek impersonator Rex Heuermann.
Rex Heuermann, an architect?
Has 2 more bodies added to his total. 2 more bodies. How about that?
Wow.
Yeah, crazy.
So what does that bring the total to?
12 or 11.
Okay.
Right? Does that sound right?
You tell me.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm sure we'll see an update. But they're still looking, I guess. Right?
Amazing.
I know. So I guess I should have looked if it was in that same spot. I mean, this is the kind of update I got from a headline. So that's why it's an update and going in the cold open. Because we got a Dateline to talk about.
I'm Lester Holt.
Howdy, Holt Heads. Kurt Money here, alongside my co-host.
Kateline.
And we are here to discuss the Dateline episode airing March 22nd of 2024, titled A Girl Named Egypt. Here is the IMDb description. Wait. There it is. It's weird. Okay, so I had to add to this because I feel like it ended prematurely. Okay? So part of this is from KMDB. 27-year-old Egypt Covington is found murdered in her home. Investigators in Michigan quickly identify a person of interest, but years pass without an arrest. That is until a nosy Nancy joins the fight.
Yes.
And there we go. Not bad, huh?
That is exactly what happens.
Okay, all right, well, let's get cracking here. We got, finally, they gave Murph Dog a breather, and we've got an AC.
Your girl.
Here's Andrea Canning with A Girl Named Egypt.
How you feeling, Kate? How you feeling?
Well, I have seen this one.
You saw the first one.
I don't know when.
This was a update.
Right. I can't remember when it originally aired. But it was nice to revisit.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You're going to end it there, huh? Nice to revisit.
Nice to revisit.
Sure was damp today.
All right, well, let's jump in. This baby happened around June of 2017.
On Friday, June 23rd, 2017, Curtis started his day, as usual, by checking in with Egypt.
A guy named Curtis, actually, with a C, though, so absolutely no relation, okay? And Curtises with a C are not in the Curtis Club, in my opinion, okay?
But isn't Curtis with a C the more common way to spell it?
What makes you think that is deserving of him to be in the cool club with the Curtises with K's? Even if more Curtises with C's exist. A K is way cooler than a C.
The word cool itself is spelled with a C.
Dog.
And so is club. So the Cool Kurt Club is CCC.
Yeah. All right. Well, you got me there. So Curtis he texts a good morning to his girlfriend, Egypt, doesn't get anything back. So he gets a little worried and he goes over to her house, a duplex.
Egypt lived in a duplex apartment inside a house. When Curtis got out of his truck, the front door was ajar.
A duplex that is a house that was, I think, converted into a duplex because from the exterior, it's a straight up house.
Yeah, there's only one front door. And I guess when you step inside, that's where there's 2 in a little vestibule area.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've got a lot to say about the B-roll selections today. I'm sorry, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, Kateline, because I had some problems. But anyway, Curtis goes over to Egypt's duplex, knocks on the door, nothing's doing. Walks in, nobody's there, calls her name. The dog comes up, and Curtis said, like, Lassie style.
Ruby met me, kind of like, hey, come with me. Like, turn around, follow me.
Takes him into the kitchen, and there's Egypt, hogtied with Christmas lights in June, on the floor, bullet to the head. She is dead.
This was strange. On this June night, Egypt's wrists were tightly bound with Christmas lights.
Curtis rushes outside, gets his phone out of his truck, and calls the cops. We hear the 911. What'd you think of the 911?
Well, he doesn't sound suspicious to me.
Nope.
Sounds like he genuinely found his girlfriend, and he is hella upset.
Yep,
And the text messages
I bought it.
also prove he was just texting her like he did every morning and didn't hear anything, and you can see him get progressively more worried throughout the day. So I was buying it.
Yeah, the operator was a little suspicious, or it sounded like it, because he's like, don't hang up. He thought Curtis was going to hang up or something, because he was like, do not hang up. And Curtis is like bawling and going like, okay, I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, hold on. Don't hang up.
No, okay. Oh my God.
Anyway, it was sad.
Who hangs up?
Yeah, who hangs up? I'll tell you what. I'll tell you who hangs up. It's when they have to put in another killer shot because the body's not dead. We've seen it, okay, in 65 Seconds with that tool who got married barefoot with his braces, and then he led his wife down the stairs and with her in front of him, and he had the gun.
Yeah, he hung up.
He did.
He's not moving. Oh, please.
There's a FF. There's a great FF too, where you can hear the person goes,
The man's still in your house.
Yes, he's laying there on the floor with a bullet in his head.
Did you shoot him?
Yes, I shot him. He was killing my wife. Please, my baby's crying. My baby's crying. I gotta go. I'll call you right back.
and he is like hanging up because he has to hurry up and kill the patsy because he was still alive. Anyway, the point is, people who hang up are the killer. Curtis did not hang up.
Not the killer.
No.
No.
Now the cops show up. We are in Belleville, Michigan, or Van Buren Township. The police.
It's kind of confusing, actually, because
Yeah.
it's the town of Belleville, Michigan.
Yep.
But it's Van Buren Township. But then on the township sign, there's like another town.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
There's 3 different town names.
Yeah, it's weird. And also Belleville is hella used. We have buddies in other Bellevilles. Belleville, Illinois.
We do. I thought that too.
Yeah.
At first I thought, is this in Illinois?
The key word here is Van Buren, because that's the police department that I'm here to highlight tonight, Kateline. That's the Van Buren Police Department.
These are some ultimate detective dinguses.
Yeah.
So much so that they didn't even want to be
Ultimate.
on Dateline.
Hell no. I couldn't find their names because I was going to straight up dox them or whatever. I was going to read their names and be like, these are the peeps. And then I was probably going to be like, that would be weird. But anyway, point is, I'm kind of glad I didn't find their names. But I'm ready to just on the old Van Buren Police Department. But let's get back to it. Okay, Egypt, dead. Cops show up. They do their thing. Let's learn about Egypt. And we get a few suspects right off the bat. We got Curtis, the boyfriend, who we think looks legitimately sad. We've got her ex, a guy who is on again, off again, named Kenny. He is looking like the main one. There's a reporter the AC talks to, like a local, you know how they always have like a local reporter on.
So when I first heard about the story and heard about the fact that Egypt was shot and killed inside of her home, that instantly captivated me, because that could be anyone shot and killed inside of their own home.
She was saying that he was the name on everybody's lips. Like everybody was saying, it's probably Kenny, probably Kenny.
Yeah. People had seen them arguing right up until her death, and they knew they kind of had a somewhat tumultuous relationship and that they were not together anymore, but he was still kind of around her orbit, and they thought that was suspicious.
Yeah, there was some festival that...
Oh, it was the Strawberry Festival.
Of course it was. How could I forget? It was the Strawberry Festival.
Here at the 41st Annual Belleville National Strawberry Festival, where there's food, fun, rides, and just about something for everyone.
This will probably be discussed at a later time in this episode. But the festival and who was expecting to see people there is interesting to me. Pin in that. So anyway, yeah, Kenny stormed off and so did Egypt. And it was like, okay, maybe he was upset because he still loved her, blah, 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 blah.
I couldn't tell you what they were talking about, but you could tell it was some sort of intense conversation going on. I wasn't worried too much at that time.
And then there's another guy. There's a third guy that's a potential suspect who is... because she's a singer, which we'll be discussing as well. She's a singer. This married guy who wanted, you know, the classic, be a producer.
He really took a liking to her. He thought she had a beautiful voice, and he told her that he had some connections in Nashville and he could introduce her to people in the music business and make her dreams come true. And she had already won a local competition with a radio station and had some momentum as far as getting a career going, and he paid for her to go with him to Nashville without his wife to try to get her into some meetings. Everybody thought this was hella suspicious, but they did look into it, and the wife knew it was happening and was cool with it, and apparently it was innocent. People had thought maybe he loved her and then was jealous and he may have done it, but it really was just he was trying to help her out. And yeah, maybe he did have feelings for her too, but that never happened.
Yeah, okay, so Egypt was an aspiring singer, bartender, and she had just been hired. She was going to be a rep for like a local brewery, because there's a lot of like IPAs or whatever in town. And she was going to be a representative to go out and try and sell.
Craft beer is a booming industry in Michigan, and Egypt landed a job with a distributor as a beer sales rep.
She entered this like, it's a cowboy American Idol competition, this singing competition. She wins.
The winner of W4 Country Idol 2014, Egypt!
And she now has her sights set on the big time, and that's when this producer guy, that's when that all happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so here's why I bring it up. Dateline will often feature an aspiring singer.
Yes.
They love it. They love it.
Nobody knows how life goes. Nobody knows how it unfolds.
Unfortunately, a lot of aspiring singers or performers get murdered on Dateline.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's because people like that are typically very outgoing, are very well known from wherever they're from, and they're just kind of in the public eye, the local public eye, and maybe that makes them more of a target sometimes.
Well, I think absolutely. It's a lose-lose situation because a married guy in his 40s, it's like, you're talented. Come with me to Nashville. That could be the break you're waiting for. Or this could be a sleaze bag. Do you know, like, it's bullshit that could be the break or not. Like, it seems like a difficult field to get into. What do you say?
Well, like I said, they looked into it and it was more innocent than they thought. But at the same time, nothing came of her trip to Nashville. So it's kind of like, we don't know who she actually met with there. Maybe it did kind of just turn out to be bullshit and he was sort of laying the groundwork for something.
Yeah.
Feeling out the situation. It didn't work. We don't know. But yeah, I mean...
No, and we didn't get to see him, but he did get to respond to Dateline, and he was like, look, I'm a tough boss, but I don't have like an anger problem, okay?
As for the description of his temper, he says he's a firm boss, but denies being hot-headed.
Right, because everybody was like, he will fly off the handle. He was the one. Kenny, too, had a temper, but this was the guy that Dwayne was saying.
Right.
Right.
It is weird. Why couldn't he just bring his wife also?
Well, yeah, and...
Or have Egypt and Curtis come. Or have Egypt and whoever she was with at the time, Kenny, or Egypt and her brother. Why not turn it into kind of like a group thing so it's not so weird?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, my uninformed opinion is that guy thought he was going to get lucky. And he didn't. I don't think he murdered her, obviously.
No, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was thinking that because... It didn't seem like everyone in this town was in love with her.
Yeah.
Nobody had anything bad to say about her, and not in the usual, well, of course, she's the murder victim. No one's going to say anything bad, but this was different. This was like, she was a local figure. Everybody knew her, and everybody loved her. Everybody.
Yeah, yeah, and they showed that we had a few shots of her singing at the competition and then produced music videos. Now, one thing we got to mention, this duplex of hers. She was proud to live there, as we learned from her stepmom.
She was very proud of her duplex.
But her neighbors in the duplex were drug dealers. They were growing legal marijuana, so everything was on the up and up, apparently. But there was a point where Egypt had told her mom, like, look, I got to get out of here. It's getting a little sketch.
Mm-hmm. She said it's really getting scary over there.
I originally thought that the neighbors were across the street because this don't tread on me flag that they kept showing. Kateline, I don't understand what I'm supposed to think as a viewer when back-to-back shots are of the same location, but one time there's a giant yellow flag in the center of the screen, and then the other time there isn't. You see what I'm saying?
Well, the shots with the "Don't Tread on Me" flag were pickups from later, I think.
Okay, but they were shown back-to-back.
I don't think that flag was flying when she was living there. I think that's just what it looks like currently.
I agree, but why did they use it? Why did they use it? Because it's confusing.
I see. It makes it look like two different places.
Of course, especially if they're back to back.
Huh. I didn't pick up on that. But I also had seen this before.
Okay.
And like the first time I saw it, as soon as they said drug dealers lived on the other side of the duplex, I said, oh, well, somebody involved with them is who killed her. Gotta be.
Yeah, I think you're wording that particularly, very specifically, so that you can say, told you so.
No, because they're interviewing Curtis and they ask him, who did you think killed her? And he said, well, it's gotta be one of two possible suspects. The first is Kenny and the second is the neighbor.
Right.
And as soon as the show started going on and on about Kenny, I'm like, oh, well, it's somebody involved with the neighbors.
All right. Well, the cops, they were not interested in those drug dealers. They were 100% on Kenny. So unfortunately,
the whole focus of this Dateline is Kenny. There's like 45 minutes to an hour of them going down the rabbit hole trying to prove that Kenny did it.
Right. Now, I would argue that that rabbit hole they go down is Lindsay's process with Dwayne. I would argue.
Yes. So Dwayne is Egypt's brother.
Yep.
And he meets this girl, Lindsay, and they don't meet until after Egypt dies, but they get engaged, and Lindsay learns about what happened to Egypt, and for some reason she's like, this is her mission, to figure out what happened to her.
Yeah, and Dwayne didn't bring it up, but Egypt's picture was like his lock screen. And she was like, who's this? And AC was like, I guess it is weird to have your sister on your phone, which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
So he doesn't bring it up, and she asks about it.
But just a few weeks into dating, Lindsay found out anyway. Hard not to, really.
And she asks about it and finds out that it's still a cold case, that there's a big rift in the family because the majority of the family thinks it's this Kenny guy, but Egypt's mom doesn't think it's Kenny. And it's this huge rift, and Dwayne, he doesn't know what to do with it. So Lindsay, she gets the bug, like she's like, whoa, I'm going to look into this. So this becomes her cause.
Lindsay, who was a kindergarten teacher by day, thought maybe they could help the police solve the mystery.
Now, we got to talk about Egypt's parents. Her birth parents split when she was young, and I think her dad, Chuck, remarried young because that, I think, was Dwayne's mom, and they were acting like she was mom number 2, but like it was like 3 people raising her.
She was lucky to have 3 different parents, and, that could help her grow up.
I'm not asking you to insult Chuck, but surely you can agree it was fun to hear him talk sometimes. Chuck, the dad.
He broke her heart.
Oh, he did. Oh.
And I remember that, so that's why I was like,
I actually really liked Chuck.
Really?
I know that he also was laser focused on Kenny, but I thought he seemed really nice and fun, and like he would have been a good dad.
Possibly. I have issues with him because, much like the police, I mean, to this day, he thinks it's Kenny.
Well, he came around in the end.
I'm sorry, did you ever hear Chuck say anything about how it wasn't Kenny or anything?
Yeah, when he
don't.
gave a statement at the sentencing.
I'm aware of that. Well, wait, we can't talk about this yet because there's a billion other things we got to do before we get to that. Cool?
Sure.
Was damp today.
So Lindsay takes up this cause and she's looking into it. And it's funny because Dwayne, he talks about it, how he doesn't like to push buttons or whatever, but Lindsay is in your face. Okay. And she's in our face too. And I mean, look, there were times when I was kind of rolling my eyes. Like, what's this lady up to?
And she was making phone calls, and she was all over the place at 100 miles per hour. She's going into it like an investigator.
What was your take on Lindsay when she was first introduced?
Well, AC explained that there were a lot of people in the family and in the town who felt like Lindsay was overstepping. And it was like, you didn't even know Egypt. You're just coming in here and taking over as if it's your place to do so. And I totally see that. But because we know what happened, all of her efforts actually got this case solved. It's kind of like, well, good for her. But I can totally see how she ruffled feathers. And it is kind of weird to get obsessed with your fiance, husband's murdered sister.
I mean this in the nicest way, but you could almost see someone saying, hey, new girl, you just started dating Dwayne, and who are you to say that we've got the wrong guy?
I can see where they're coming from.
So when she has her head wrapped around the case, her and Dwayne go over to talk with the family that believes that Kenny did it. Like, they kind of have like a family get together, and this thing does not go well. Where Lindsay storms out of there by her own words.
I ended up storming out of the house, and it was not a proud moment.
Now, this is a classic story. We hear both sides, because the way that old Chuck tells it, that in his home, they were simply trying to have a conversation, and she just got up and walked out. And he doesn't have to interface with somebody who does that in his own home. Kateline, what do you think?
To come into my house, to talk about things, to get up and leave while we're just kind of talking, I have no need to interface with that particular person anymore.
Do you think that was the truth? Do you think that's how it went down? You think they were just sitting there talking, and then she just got up and walked out?
No, we'll never know for sure.
True.
But the fact that Dwayne insisted that she keep at it after that, she was ready to give up.
Yeah, because she tried to bounce.
She was like, you know what? It's not my place. I've upset your parents. I'm going to walk away. And he begged her not to. He told her to keep looking. And so did Egypt's mom. So I kind of think maybe it wasn't exactly the way Chuck described.
Yeah. So, but it does not go well, and as far as we can tell, that was the last time that they were, I guess they were together with the trials and whatnot, but they still don't speak to this day. So, with that bridge burned, Lindsay turns her attention towards the Van Buren Police. Now, we've talked a lot about like family members of victims that bug the police and how it's like, look, good on you. That's how you get it done. And I think she's the primo.
This is next level.
Yeah.
This is next level. I mean, dare we say she's the all-star?
Oh, not dare. Say it, Kate. Sing it from the rooftops. Lindsay is the all-star of this episode. Okay?
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah, it never would have been solved without her.
Yeah, so she's bugging the police. She's like any other person that goes in there wanting answers of like, just tell us what you're doing. And here's the best part, and one of many reasons why she's the all-star is because she recorded it and didn't tell him.
Didn't tell him.
Oh my God. It's awesome.
So you're recording this meeting?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They didn't know.
It's awesome because it's also proof of, here's a problem with these dinguses over at Van Buren Police Department, okay, is they are just classically lazy. They took every trick out of the book that they tell victims' families, okay, and we have it all on record. So they're in there, Dwayne and Lindsay are being like, you know, why can't you do this? Have you done this? And they're like, we've pretty much cleared them. And Lindsay's like, what does pretty much mean?
We can pretty much prove they were there.
Wait, what do you mean pretty much?
Okay, listen, I'm not going to get...
No, what do you mean pretty much prove? We want to know that you can prove. That's all I wanted to get at. You didn't go through their phone, so you haven't fully... I know, I'm tough.
And this is a thing that I'm adding to my list, is when cops make the joke that, hey, you know, he failed that polygraph miserably, but he got his name right. I'll give him credit. He got his name right on the polygraph test.
He failed.
Get his name right.
Well, he did get his name right in the date. Besides that, he failed that. You know, it's like he said, he failed everything.
Cops love that joke. They love it. And the cops go ahead and proceed to tell them that every time they try and tell themselves that Kenny didn't do it, everything leads them back to Kenny. Now they're unable to produce anything that shows what would direct them back to Kenny, because all they have on him is a failed polygraph. That's it. But I love that this was recorded, okay? Because this to me is what's wrong. There's got to be a way to fix this, okay? Because they say that we've followed every physical lead possible.
Okay. Where we stand right now is we followed up every lead that we physically have.
Not true.
Nope.
Okay? Not true. Now, I can't, the whole bit about he got his name right is such a classic misdirection from cops to get your mind the way that they want you to think.
They're trying to ease the tension in the room and make it lighter and try to get you to feel like, hey, we're on your side.
I think they're trying to make you feel stupid for wanting to want more proof. Because his follow-up to that is, I've been doing this a long time. I know when people are lying.
I sat in on it. I was there. I watched the interview. I interviewed him here. I know when someone's lying to me. I know when someone did something.
Tough shit, dude. Tough shit. I don't care about your gut feeling. Like, that's not good enough for me, my man. Am I right?
Yeah, and it wasn't good enough for Lindsay either, because she starts pressing and
they get fucking butthurt, don't
they get butthurt, and they're like, hey, don't come in here and tell me that I don't know how to do my job. And she's like, oh my God, you're getting defensive.
Okay, bring me something I can use instead of telling me I'm not doing my job properly, and I'll be a much better person with it.
Yes, and now that delivery right there, if these cops had been doing their job, I would have felt for them, because that would frustrate me if someone said that to me. It's been said to me in the past, and I never like it when it's pointed out that I'm upset about something, because I'm well aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Lindsay ends up being right in this whole thing, and these cops suck.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like that she said it like that.
So she leaves that meeting with them determined.
Enraged.
She's so mad, and she's determined to get
Yeah.
the state police involved because she knows they have more resources and they will be more thorough.
They'll do their jobs.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the ball's on her.
Mm-hmm. What'd she do?
She starts emailing the Van Buren police and CCing the head lieutenant of the state police. And when she tells AC this,
yeah,
AC is like, oh my God, what?
I sent it to the head lieutenant of Michigan State Police. I just started putting him on our emails.
Van Buren Police must have been like, just get out of our business.
Yeah, AC fucking loved it.
It is so ballsy. She's like, I don't care.
Yeah, and
CC it. I want them to see how inept these dudes are. And
yeah, so she's doing that.
And then Dwayne and her.
She's doing that, and
then she and Dwayne are leading these giant protests and marches outside the Van Buren police and making petitions to get the state police involved. It's badass.
There's a part where they show, while she's making all these emails and CCing the state police and asking for them to take it, she's attending town hall Zoom meetings. okay? And they show these Zoom meetings, and it's like 12 people, right? And they say like, well, we see that someone has their hand raised. Okay, Lindsay.
I'm gonna allow Lindsay to talk. Her hand is still raised.
She would demand to know what they were doing to solve her case. That's pretty cool too, right? That she was like, what's been done in Egypt Covington's murder case? That's pretty good.
Oh my God. And then
that's dope.
In one of those emails, the county clerk actually accidentally did a reply all with her on the email chain saying, can you get me off these emails? I don't want to be involved with this nonsense.
Stupidness. He said stupidness.
Stupidness. And she's like, boom. That's all I need. Like, they have to hand it off now.
Is there any way these emails to everyone can be blocked? I'm personally not interested in the stupidness.
They throw that everywhere. They're posting that on their Facebook. They're sending it to everybody. And I gotta say, of course, that guy, that clerk, right? He said, that, oh, I didn't mean to hurt their feelings. I was just trying to get off this email.
The clerk later apologized, saying he meant no disrespect to Egypt or her family. He was just trying to get off the email chain.
Now, I don't know about you, but I've been on email chains where I'm like one of 500 people that get an email. So I get that frustration. But guess what, Kateline? That motherfucker who said that was one of those boxes in that Zoom meeting.
I'm gonna allow Lindsay to talk.
Clerk Leon Wright. He was one of the 8 people there.
Wow.
To hear Lindsay say, what the are you doing about this murder?
Yeah. Well, that was, I think, what really got the case handed off to the state police. I mean, granted, Van Buren...
Well, protest.
Sure. The protests and the petitions. The petition which Egypt's parents, Egypt's dad and stepmom refused to sign.
Yeah.
And were trying to encourage their friends not to sign. But they got 15,000 signatures without that, so...
Yeah. And you can see, I was looking at an article from 2020 about that Zoom meeting. So this is 4 years ago, right? Where they're talking about this Zoom meeting. And apparently, so I guess Kevin McNamara is the name of the head of the council or whatever. He's a 90-year-old sludge guy that was also one of the Zoom boxes. And apparently, Lindsay said, have you guys done a tower dump on cell records for the area that Lindsay lives in? And guess what his response was? We don't know what that is, okay? Which is hilarious. And one commenter was like, my 12-year-old son knows what a tower dump is. And then Lindsay said, you could become the hero of this investigation if you just have the state police take it. Guess what Kevin McNamara's response was? He laughed in her face. He laughed.
Well, was he laughing when the state police took it over?
Hell no.
Because they did.
Because the day after the protest, they get a call. The Michigan State Police have the case.
Amazing.
It worked.
It worked. And these 2 state police detectives that we meet, they don't mind shading Van Buren at all. They're like, we got the case and we looked back and one of the very first clues they didn't investigate, and we looked into it, we did the tower dump, and what do you know? We got some other suspects.
And there was one phone that it hit on, and it came back to a guy from Toledo, Ohio, and they didn't look further into it.
Yeah, and now here is where I love this episode and this case, and I'll never forget it because of this little word said by this detective. Geofencing.
So they did a geofence on her house, and it basically identifies phones in that area, and it hit on a phone
that were in the area at the time of the murder.
Correct.
Now, what do you know about geofencing, Kateline? What is it to you?
Well, my first thought is geocaching, which is very different.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Okay. Now, even Keith asks about it on the Talking Dateline. AC just basically says it's tower dump. You figure out whose cells are in the area.
So they have the ability to download all the phones in use and determine whether something was in the area that didn't belong there.
Yes, and so they found these guys from Ohio.
Here's what it is specifically. A geofence warrant is when cops go to Google, okay, and present a perimeter around a certain area. It could be 3 blocks, it could be 10 feet, and then also submit a time period. It could be 10 minutes, it could be an hour. And what Google will do is there's a 3-step process because people are up in arms about privacy and whatnot. Step 1, the judge has to say okay. But steps 2 and 3 are up to Google. But anyway, the point is, what they do is Google goes in there, they draw the perimeter within this fence, this virtual fence, and people who have location history turned on their phone, they show up exactly where they're at right there on the dot. So it's not just like you made a call there. It's specifically location history in Google. If it's on, your ass is busted.
Good, honey.
So here's the crazy thing is like, yes, the state police, they've got no choice but to shit all over these other cops because they sucked. But they do try and be nice about it at first. And they're like, they just didn't have the technology or the knowledge of it to do this blah, 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 blah.
The local law enforcement wasn't readily equipped to investigate such an in-depth case that required a lot of expertise with electronics and other forms of evidence.
I say bullshit because it's so funny. This geofence is requested like a warrant, like a search warrant. It doesn't involve technology. It's you say, Judge, can I ask Google for this? And Google will, depending on how big your window is, you get a list presented with block numbers. And then if you can present a good case to narrow that down, then you get to know those numbers. You see what I'm saying? So the Van Buren police requested a geofence, okay? And if we're to believe that screenshot that we see on the show, that there were 4 results that showed up in this geofence, okay? I don't know if that's true, but if we're to believe that screenshot that they're pointing at, there were 4 hits in this area that the Van Buren police knew about.
And they didn't run it down.
One phone in particular, they can tell was in her house. But because it's an area code for Ohio, the Van Buren police ignored it.
The killer couldn't possibly be from another state.
No. So
killers don't leave their towns to go murder people.
Yeah, people who kill people do it in the state that their license plate says. It's gotta be the rules.
But whenever I began to plot the device, I found that phone was actually in her house at the time that we believe that she was killed.
If they had just looked at the results that they had requested from Google, the Van Buren police might have been able to do this. So this is when I go back to that meeting that Lindsay, the all-star of the app, recorded. And I play back in my head them saying, we've pursued every physical clue we have. We've done everything possible.
Followed up every lead that we physically have.
And they had the nerve to say, this is just as important to us as it is to your family.
Oh, yeah.
Those motherfuckers. They said that.
This is important to us, just like it's important to your family.
So the state police, they get this Ohio number. They're like, what's going on here? And they think, wait a minute, there's also a video in this existing evidence. Okay, in this box that came from Van Buren police is a number that was inside the duplex of Egypt, and video of a truck pulling into a parking lot by her house with an Ohio license plate. How about that now? So now we've got a phone at her house from Ohio and a truck with Ohio plates supposedly pointing at her house.
And this surveillance from the gas station around the corner, it is really clear. It is crystal clear. It's some of the best surveillance footage I've seen. The license plate number is clearly visible, and even the people in the truck, you can totally tell who they are.
Yeah.
And they run that plate, and it matches one of the numbers.
It matches a guy. There are 3 people that we get in this. Now, there is a person that lives in Belleville, because I think that's who the plate belongs to. Is that the guy who mows the lawns? We've got a guy from Ohio at her house. We've got an Ohio truck in the area. They check this truck. It belongs to a guy who not only mows the lawn of that duplex and lives up the street, but he went to high school with Egypt.
They'd gone to the same high school years earlier.
So now the cops are thinking, well, we've got our connection, okay? We've got our connection. It's clearly not Kenny. We can wipe him off because he didn't even... They even said, like, it was weird they publicly said he was a suspect, but they had nothing to show for it.
I didn't think they were allowed to do that. Publicly name suspects?
Right!
But then they have the nerve to tell Lindsay, we can't disclose information. It's an open case. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you just ruined a man's life for no reason.
Yeah. All of those are just protections of the lazy. All that stuff of, it's an open investigation, we're not allowed to tell you. Nope. You could tell us if you wanted to. If there was something you were proud of, you would tell us. But you didn't.
No.
So now we're thinking, all right, this is the connection, but why does this guy want to go in there and kill Egypt? They put out arrest warrants for these guys, and they arrest maybe all 3 in Ohio. But the problem is they're hoping that once they arrest him, these guys will start spilling on each other. But at first glance, nobody's talking.
Right.
And they're like, well, now what are we going to do? So they pulled out another interrogation trick that I do not care for, but in this case, I'm okay with it because these dummies fell for it instantly. But as AC says, went in there and exaggerated the evidence, aka told a bold-faced lie, and they fell for it. right?
Yeah.
So
But they knew that they were guilty. They just needed them to say it.
Then the detectives did something investigators often do: exaggerate the evidence.
Yeah, and so the first line they cast is, okay, but your half-brother has already flipped, and he's turning on you right now in another room, so, like, you should do something about that. And this guy says, oh, flips instantly, tells the whole story. And now is when we get the story of what actually happened.
And at that moment, he broke, and he was the first suspect to spill.
Okay, and this is, I mean, it's incredibly sad because it boils down to an oops, literally. The presentation of this oops, I mean, this is, I don't know, this sucks, but it's crazy. So why don't you kick us off here, Kate?
Well,
what does he start singing?
He's saying that they knew that Egypt's neighbors were out of town for this music festival thing.
He also knew they were leaving town for the music festival.
He said that he knew that nobody was going to be home at this location.
So they wanted to cruise by and break in and rob them while they were gone. So they do a drive-by just to scope it out. And the guy who mows the lawns, he points out which side of the house it is, which side of the duplex. And maybe this is because there's only one door.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But he claims he says the right side.
Yeah.
We don't know. That's just what he says. But he tells them it's the right side. No one's home.
I pointed at the right house, and I kept going.
And they go back later and they bust through the door, and instead of going into the right side, they go into the left side, which is Egypt's. Now, my thing is, it's supposed to be empty and also a drug dealer house.
Yeah.
But they break down the door and it's not empty. Egypt is there just hanging out.
Nope.
And it's probably really cute. It's a girl's apartment.
Yeah.
Why didn't they?
And they're still looking for weed.
Yeah.
Dumb shit. They were still looking for weed.
Why not go, oh, my bad, and walk next door? She's not going to stop you. She's probably scared.
Yeah. Apparently, she started messing with her phone. I wanted more details on that. This is sad. Was she, like, trying to text for help and they saw? Because the point is, they were only in there for 6 minutes, but as they were leaving, one of the guys grabbed a pillow, put it over Egypt's face, and pulled the trigger. And we find out that guy was on parole, and he had gone to jail because a witness had ID'd him. So they were thinking that he did this to protect his ass. And I found out on the Talking Dateline, they didn't even go next door when they left. Like, they left after that, and that was it. It was like this massive misunderstanding. I mean, this is a sitcom level thing to happen.
They didn't even get what they came for. I don't get it. If you're going to kill her, you're killing her so there's no witness. You should still go do what you said you were going to do. What's the point otherwise?
Yeah, because
what did they take from her?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't...
These are very, very stupid people.
Yes. This is what's weird and why I'm very suspicious of this guy that spills, because he's very clear in the interrogation room. He says, I pointed out the truck and I said the right door.
The right house.
Now, when he leaves, the guy says, like, texts him and says, I had to kill a lady or whatever. And he goes, I said the right door. And literally the response back from this killer is what?
Oops.
Oops.
Wrong door. He said, oops.
The fact that it boils down to the wrong door, it's chilling.
Yeah. And that was it. Now, I don't know, like we've talked about, this is a house that's been converted into a duplex. If we're driving by it, Kateline, and I point my finger out the window, how the hell do you know which duplex I'm pointing at?
Well, it only had one main door. How would you know? You have to specifically say to the person, now go in that door, and it's the unit on the right.
That's what I don't get, because he's insinuating that he pointed out of the truck, but there's no way you could specify the right side of that house by pointing out of a moving truck.
Yeah, he's just saying that.
So
he's just saying, I told them the right. We see in their text message history that he did say, no, man, I said the right.
Yeah.
But I think that's maybe the only time he said, go to the right.
Right, was when he was like, I told you. Mm-hmm. You're right. It was after the fact. Now, none of these guys see trial because they all make deals, and it's for second-degree murder. And now this was kind of weird and sad because the dad, Chuck, got up there and was saying how brutal it was.
My daughter's life was reduced to an oops.
And he was saying like they deserve the death penalty. And then they see in the VO is like, well, it wasn't a death penalty case. So that didn't happen. Like a second-degree murder. You can't get the death penalty for second-degree murder, can you?
No, I don't think so. And it's second degree because they did not plan that.
Yeah, I guess not. It's so frustrating. Here's one of the many reasons why I thought this was a solid Dateline is because they plant that seed of the neighbor, of the drug dealer at the beginning.
She said, Mom, I gotta move.
And that could be a red herring. That could be any number of things in this story. And I love that the answer was, okay, the drug dealers didn't do it, but it was still because of them being drug dealers that this lady died, because they were targets for robberies because people knew that they dealt drugs. And that's a real bummer thing, but it all came tied back around. And I thought it was interesting. And before we go on to the old lists here, we really got to say, Lindsay is the nosy Nancy. Okay. And they've got, I mean, the other family members are on air saying how, like, she don't know her.
She never even knew Egypt, never met Egypt.
This is a victory lap for her. Now, this has to be a true crime fan's dream, that not only do you help get a case solved, you've got a 2-hour Dateline hosted by AC that's all about you, right? I mean,
it's great for her.
I just think, like, it must have sucked to be Chuck and his wife watching this app.
So that's why I was like,
I mean, talk about a victory lap.
And you're saying that they are still not on speaking terms with Lindsay?
Yes. Yeah, Dwayne is telling AC, like, yeah, it'd be nice. I don't know if it's going to happen. So this is why I'm not a fan of Chuck, because no matter how annoyed we are at Lindsay,
better person with you.
she is still the reason that you know who killed your daughter. That's the bottom line here, guy. So you got to eat crow on this. Don't you think so?
Maybe they have. Maybe they've made up, and it would be a shame if this is something that really kept the family apart, because they all have closure now, and Lindsay really loves Dwayne and also Egypt, and she is actually wearing Egypt's ring. Dwayne gave her the engagement ring that Egypt was supposed to inherit, and that's really sweet. That's like, Lindsay does not take that lightly. She knows that that's very special to the family, and I think, it would be a real shame if they're still broken up over this.
Well, I mean, they were at the end of this ep. I mean, I hope they've resolved it in the last 2 months, right? But
maybe this ep helped.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, okay. Kateline. Now, this geofence thing is interesting, okay?
With the geofencing?
Sure.
The first time that a geofence warrant was requested was 2016. Now, there were cases that were debated about, like, if something could be submitted because of this geofence warrant, because they worried that it breaks the Fourth Amendment. Like, general search warrant is a no good thing. So that's what they're arguing that the geofence is. But if the cops can give good cause or whatever, they're granted it. First one's in 2016. Since then, 20 to 25% of law enforcement requests to Google are for a geofence. That's a lot of requests.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this year, this just happened late last year, is Google announced that no longer will they be storing location history at a centralized location. It's going to be encrypted on users' phones. And Google will not have access to this. Now, it's a thing they have to roll out, and it's happening this year. But that means that that method of investigation is gone. You won't be able to use that because Google, I mean, if there are other search engines that people have on, you could ask for a geofence of that. But Google is Google, right? I mean, that's the one that people use. So what do you think about that? They can't.
That's a shame. It always bugs me when people get upset about tracking and privacy and you know, they don't want to be targeted by ads. They don't want their data shared. My thing is, those people are doing something shady. If you're not doing anything shady, what do you care? I don't care if Google knows where I am. I'm not doing anything that I wouldn't want people to know. I also don't care if I'm targeted with ads. It's for things that I end up liking. It's learning what I like.
Yeah.
What's so bad about that?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think also because all our information is already out there. The box is already open.
It is.
And I think that as time passes and the amount of voices that are upset about lack of privacy and how the government shouldn't know where I am, those are going to lessen because kids are growing up with this now.
Yeah.
They're not going to be bothered by it.
They don't care.
They're not going to give a shit.
No. And why should they?
They shouldn't.
It's the people who are up to no good.
Yes.
That give a shit.
Absolutely. And then also, people love to get up in arms about like this whole privacy thing is kind of like the word freedom to me. It's a real like, oh, brother. I'm going to roll my eyes talking about this. So I imagine that those groups are pretty excited. This is a pretty big step by Google. I don't think it was to protect their privacy. I think it was now they don't have that work they have to do. They just cut out 25% of legwork they have to do. That's why they did it.
Unless they can find a way to have a robot do it for them. They don't need to be bothered with it.
Yeah, when you read about the steps and all that, it's crazy to think that there's a Google employee that a cop would have to talk to and go like, okay, we want that dot to be removed because we know this about him. Like, that's kind of wild. I wonder, like, who at Google has that job? Do you apply for that job? I don't know. Well, it doesn't matter anymore. But here's what I want to say about this. Location history is optional. By default, it's turned off. I know that phones are necessary, but they're still, if you are so worried about privacy and protection of your rights, you're making the choice to carry that mini computer around with you everywhere. You don't have to, right? So I think if people have their location history on, they turned it on, and we should be able to use it for these purposes. Am I right? I mean,
totally, because when you turn it on, doesn't your phone ask you and then tell you what you're enabling and allowing Google to do and to track? You agree to that in their terms, and whatever comes with that.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do a crime, leave your phone at home.
Yeah, leave it on.
Leave it on.
But leave it at home.
And sure, people will be like, well, the phone was at home, but you didn't touch it for the entire window of this murder. That's also been...
We've seen that too.
Evidence. We've seen that. So I guess if you're gonna do a crime, leave your phone at home and have someone using it, just surfing the web and doing nonsense on playing a game on it while you do this crime. So it looks like it's pinging from home and it was active.
Yeah, but also, guess what? You're busted because you can't involve another person. Sorry, that person or you are going to flip on that other person. You're already busted.
True.
Straight down the line for both of us. Remember?
All right, well, I think on that note, we talk about damn lists. Kateline, hit me.
Kate's unnamed list. All right. It's a small-ish town.
Okay.
Van Buren Township. How terrible was the sign outside the police department? It said Van Buren Township. Public safety, and then fire and police, but it was like off-centered.
Yeah, that was weird as hell. I'm glad you pointed that out. I didn't know what was going on.
Fire and police were listed below it, but like indented weird in a smaller font.
Yeah.
It looked insane. It looked like half the sign had fallen off.
Yeah, I agree. Like there was a word missing. But wait, Kateline, this was a small town. I mean, I'd like to present reasons why. Are you saying that it's not?
No, I'm saying it was.
You said ish. You said it. Okay, but
ish because it wasn't like a one swinging traffic light at the main intersection. It was more robust than that, but small enough that everybody in the town knew Egypt.
And when you went out at night, you knew you would see the other person. That whole festival thing was nuts. Because everybody knew they'd see the other person there.
Right.
And just about something for everyone.
And like even AC talks about how it's a small town and how Egypt wanted to move because she'd see Kenny all the time. She'd see Kenny everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
It was a small town.
Okay, sweet.
But there was no Florida connection. There was no military. No one cried and said, I'm sorry.
Almost. Curtis almost did. I feel like people, it's either the editors of Dateline listen to us or the people on it because it's like they're cutting around your list item. Curtis was like crying and stuff.
And
they cut away.
I did make that on my list because it happened so often. And now it never happens. It feels like
it almost does a lot.
None of my things ever happen. It also didn't have a missing puzzle piece.
You're right.
So I only have one thing.
But a good one. All right. Now it's time for Kurt's Kick-Ass List.
Kick-Ass List.
I do have something that hit on my list, although it's a little iffy. It's mention of movies. And it was when Kenny was getting investigated. He was, that was the other thing about Kenny, is he's the number one suspect. But Lindsay and Dwayne straight up call him and ask him if he did it. He said no. Lindsay said, do you have proof of this? He said yes. And he agreed to sit down with his lawyer to talk to an investigator, right? That was pretty cool of him. So, but he had to pay for his lawyer. Do you think Lindsay paid for his lawyer? Or? No.
No. I think that is something that happens a lot and doesn't always get mentioned. That if you're a suspect and you lawyer up, that's on you, even if you have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, and like there's references to it in pop culture all the time that they charge by the hour. So like it's going to cost you a couple $100 just to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, but movies are mentioned because he says he went home and watched Netflix. No, I'm sorry, Hulu. He says them both.
Had some leftover burritos and watched Netflix. Or Hulu.
Now, what I liked was that the investigator said on
my phone,
which is a good question. I mean, naturally, it's been a question that's been asked now for 10 years, but that always wasn't the case. Where else would you watch it? A TV, bro? But he watched it on his phone. He watched everything on his phone. Now, specific movie. This was interesting. And now, whereas you run a tight ship with your rules. Me, I'm loosey-goosey. I'm letting everybody in. Guess who's in? Movie mentioned in this because when they show the B-roll of the brewery, the guy packing the boxes is wearing a Demons shirt, okay? And Demons is this Italian horror movie where these two girls cut school, and then this guy in a metal mask gives them a ticket to a cinematheque on the bus, and they all get trapped in there. Zombies eat everybody, and it's dope.
Okay.
But he was wearing a demon shirt.
Yeah, that counts.
Thank you.
It's coming from in the theater. It's a movie. No, that's not a movie.
Okay, so what is it?
It's the coke in your ears.
Oh, there was also DNA involved that they reran. That was interesting to me. They said when the crime happened in 2017, by 2020, there had been a lot more advancements in DNA. Really?
No.
In 3 years between 17 and 20?
That's bullshit.
You think it's bullshit?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They're just making excuses.
Yeah. All right, so those dudes are in jail. Curtis is living his life. Dwayne and Lindsay happily married. Hopefully, they're meeting up with Chuck, and he's loud talking at the dinner table about something. And that's why I was like, That's what he did. That's what he said. Mm-hmm. He broke her heart. That's my impression of Chuck.
He broke her heart.
Oh, he did.
So that's why I was like,
Next week, it's an update case because I remember watching this one. It's about a lady who rides a bike all the time. Next week, we'll be discussing The Night Time Stopped. Ooh, that sounds fun. Be sure to check us out on Instagram at I'm Lester Holt and email us at imlesterholt@gmail.com if you want to tell us how awesome we are. Please give us 5 stars on the apps and whatnot. That's going to do it. I'm Kurt. Time out. Oh, wow, that was close, Kate. I forgot. On the Talking Dateline, they had like a trivia section at the end. The trivia was, which Dateline host was hosting the highest rated episode? Who was it? Who's your guess?
I'm going to assume it's Keith.
Nope.
Is it your girl?
Nope.
Is it Murph?
It's Murph Dog.
Man, it's his show now.
Yeah, how about it?
It's his show.
I'm going to say Dennis.
And you're right. That's the official correct answer.
They even said the episode name, and you bet. As soon as we get off right now, I'm going to see if it's on Peacock. It's called Cliffhanger, okay? But
No.
Okay, so there's that. Who told the first story on Dateline?
You mean who hosted the first time?
Yeah, like yeah.
Is it someone who's not currently even a host?
It's a person who is on the team as we speak.
Again, I would assume it's Keith.
Nope.
Come on. It's not Murph.
It sure is. It's friggin' Murph Dog.
Maybe we wouldn't have 2 with Dennis.
Yeah, no, it was Dennis.
Oh, I got it wrong. Okay.
Oh, man. It's Murph's world. We're just living in it.
You know what? And we're getting out on that note. I'm Kurt Money.
I'm Kateline.
I'm Lester Holt. For all of us, I'm Lester Holt. Good night.